Hello, I'm Dave Bailey, and this is my critique of the Creation Research Museum of Ontario. I haven't actually visited it. I really don't think I want to. But this is basically a rundown on what their website tells us about it. I'll be reading from a screen, so please excuse my eye movements. It's hosted by the Goodwood Baptist Church in Goodwood, Ontario, and it's typical of the current state of creationism research. Nothing. For creationists, the research has already been done, written, peer-reviewed, and published, and they call it the Bible. That's it, folks. Collection of Bronze Age stories of doubtful authorship, provenance, and veracity, often translated, mistranslated, edited, rewritten, chopped, added to, and modified by religious leaders up to the present day. But with many creationists, they tend to only go up to the time of King James I, and adheres to the version of the Bible that he commissioned, which means that the year 1611, over 400 years ago, is where they chose to stop learning. Later updates to the Bible are mere changes to grammar and spelling to bring it more in line with the modern reader's abilities and expectations. They offer no new insights into history, science, geography, ancestry, and all the other things we expect from revisions. God said it, they believe it, that ends it. Pathetic. Think of all the scientific advancements since then, in which religion has played absolutely no part whatsoever. In fact, 3 years before the King James Bible, Hans Lippershey invented the telescope and revolutionized astronomy. 3 years later, the year the Bible was published, the first sunspots were discovered. Science. As of April 2022, the museum's website says that they are closed due to COVID-19 restrictions. One can only hope that the closure becomes permanent. Inflicting this on the public is laughable. On a child, it's tantamount to abuse. But they routinely drag them in, take them on field trips, and have them handle and collect fossils, all with the expectation that they accept their word that everything they find is evidence for a six-day creation and a worldwide flood. Just like it says in the Bible, the only research paper that their entire philosophy is based on. Let's take a look at some of their claims, quoted directly from their website. In order to not be accused of selective editing, the quotes you'll see are direct screen captures from their website with all spelling mistakes and grammatical errors intact. The only thing I've modified is the formatting to make it easier to read. All the evidence? If that were true, the museum would be empty. Yes, you do. And it's one of the things that led people centuries ago, and many of them religious, to come to realize that biblical timescales may not be correct, and that the earth and the life on it may be much older. This may be a surprise to creationists, but it isn't a new thing. And people were thinking about it long before evolution became scientifically mainstream. Yes, there would be, but that does not negate other, more sensible reasons. Over the billions of years that the Earth and its myriad life forms have existed, there is probably not 1 square millimeter that has not been flooded, and often catastrophically. But creationists seem to think that it can only happen once and everywhere at the same time. The undeniable fact that fossil beds of vastly different ages exist and at different levels in the sediment and strata means nothing. To them, a Devonian era fossil found in layers laid down between 420 and 360 million years ago must be the same age as a Cretaceous period fossil laid down between 145 and 66 million years ago, because their ancient book says so. Their attempt fails, and the secular world tries to obscure? No, there has been no attempt to obscure. but creationists love to play that persecution card. The evidence seen by real science is exactly the same as that seen by creationists. But real scientists reach different conclusions based on their knowledge and taking into account evidence from complementary fields. And real scientists come to conclusions better explained by evolution than creation. And fallacies of evolution's millions and millions years of slow burial? There is no fallacy because evolution does not claim that. It recognizes that geological processes can occur at many different rates, for many different reasons, from sudden occurrences like landslides and flash floods to slow deposition of silt. Translation from Creationese. We haven't found a fossil of a trilobite in the act of giving birth to a horse, so evolution is false. Loosing? No comment needed. And evolution only says that new life forms will constantly develop, not that there cannot be a net loss in the overall number of individuals or species. No, the evidence is in the same place you're looking, in the earth. The textbooks merely explain what the evidence means. But creationists like to imply that there is some sort of conspiracy to construct the scientific narrative in such a way as to promote evolution. Science doesn't promote anything. It simply tries to offer the best explanation based on the current state of knowledge. No, we do not have to conclude that bulbous algae exhibits stasis. It may do, but the only way to prove that would be to revive a 450 million-year-old fossil and see if there has not been sufficient genetic and or physical change to prevent it from breeding with a living bulbous algae that was collected this morning. Good luck with that. Yes, Ontario has had a catastrophic past. As part of that, there are many obvious and well-studied meteoric craters that attest to geological ages much older than biblical claims. A caption accompanying a photo of fossil freshwater clams says, yes, it certainly could mean that they were buried deep and rapidly, but real science does not deny that such things can occur. Only that it is not the only explanation for all burial and fossilization events. Alternately, perhaps in the intervening 450 million years, the clams evolved from a type that stays closed when dead to one that opens. There could be many other explanations, but creationists will only and always consider only one. Actually, the dinosaurs don't say anything. They're dead. Okay, most are dead. And while some were buried by sediment, possibly rapidly, others died, then got eaten or rotted or mummified and then buried. Some may never have been buried, and their bones may have simply turned to dust by various processes. Very few things get fossilized. There are many ways that such a thing could happen without assuming a worldwide flood. A localized flash flood would do nicely. Really? The fact that some animals represented on the fossil record were there disproved evolution? As I said with bulbous algae, you would have to prove that they are unchanged enough to reproduce with the fossils. And kind has no meaning in evolution, as they already know. But they can just keep ignoring it if it makes their lives easier. Again, so what? Nobody denies that water could do that. And many? A majority? 30%? Not that it matters. Yes, if you continue to examine everything using the same flawed premise, you will probably reach the same flawed conclusion. Describing a photo of a belemnite. The term living fossil is overused and incorrect. There are organisms today that exist relatively unchanged from their fossil ancestors, but they are probably not exactly the same. They may bear a passing similarity in structure, but that doesn't make them a living fossil. I don't vehemently object to the term because it gets people interested in nature, and that's a good thing. Sounds cool, but it has to be properly understood. Creationists do not even try. Here they have a photo of a really nice trilobite, or trilobite, whichever way you want to pronounce it, from the shores of Georgian Bay. I've collected them myself up there. It really is quite the spot for trilobites. I'll be pedantic here and say that fossil trilobites, putting the words in that order, implies that there may be living ones, so trilobite fossils would sound better. But that's just me. They then illustrate a few crystals as if their structure proves a creator. The process of crystallization is well known and understood, and they form quite naturally, without any divine intervention needed. Something big. Yes, how strange that large stretches of ocean could exist millions of years ago. Sarcasm. But there is no evidence that something fast, whatever that means, went on in the past, at least not a fast global flood. Wrong, because time is also involved, whether it's 1 year or a million. On average, they may wish to learn what the word average means. And those forming on bridges are subject to different conditions than in caves, involving different drip rates, different minerals, meteorological conditions, etc. But when your geologic outlook adheres to a 6,000-year-old universe, timescales might be hard to understand. No. First of all, the name is Fresnel, not Fresnal. Shoddy research on even a simple thing like a name is too much for a creationist. I presume that the fact that they spelled it correctly 1 out of 4 times means that they made a mistake in the right direction. And describing it as a Fresnel lens, or Fresnel type lens, is misleading. The trilobites had hard lenses made of calcite, but they were not true Fresnel lenses. Obfuscation and misinformation are more hallmarks of the creationist mindset. And since many people wouldn't know what a Fresnel lens is if they swallowed one, they fall prey to technobabble. Because they say so, I guess. loosing again. And again, the conclusion about what it means for evolution is wrong. It takes a very long time for new species to evolve, but any species could be wiped out in a much shorter period. The first report of a dodo, a flightless bird confined to the Indian Ocean island of Mauritius, was in 1598. After being slaughtered indiscriminately for meat, the last verified sighting was in 1662. 64 years from discovery to oblivion. The stellar sea cow, related to manatees and dugongs, was extinct from hunting a mere 27 years after European explorers first found it and exploited it to death, literally. Glowing minerals have nothing to do with creation as far as we know, and if they're invisible to our allegedly God-given eyes, what is the point? How would we appreciate them? Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Evolution can easily explain things that many find beautiful. The incredible colors and dancing displays of various birds are a function of sexual selection. The males that put on the best performances in costume and choreography have the best chance of mating with what seem to be very judgmental females. Sadly, by the time this report is made, you should consider yourselves lucky that removing it also removes your incredibly shoddy standards of evidence. They claim that the alleged Noachian deluge set the stage for the Ice Age. And I'm sure they meant ushered in, not issued in, but grammar is also a challenge for them. According to creationists, a flood less than 6,000 years ago brought about a glaciation that we know began to recede from southern Ontario about 20,000 years ago. You can't make up this stuff.